The meadow stretched far in every direction, dry grasses standing in tall, sun-bleached waves that rustled only when touched by the slightest shift of air, though at this hour, even the breeze seemed to rest. The wild horse stood near the center of the open expanse, its body still yet fully awake, head lifted, ears attuned not to any particular sound, but to the vastness itself. Its coat held the dust of the plain, a muted brown that matched the land as though creature and earth had grown from the same roots. The soil beneath its hooves was firm and cracked in places where heat had drawn the moisture away long ago, though here and there stood small islands of hardy grass, their roots going deeper than thirst could follow. Beyond the meadow, the horizon stretched flat and unbroken, a long line where land and sky met without urgency, as if they had come to an agreement not to change. A few scattered shrubs lay low against the ground in the distance, their branches thin, their leaves dry and sparse, shaped by years of sun and wind that had passed through without leaving scars. The sky overhead was wide and pale, more light than color, and the sun, though present, did not glare. It simply hovered, offering warmth in slow, steady measure. No birds traced arcs across the open air. No insects hummed in swarms. The meadow was not empty. It was simply quiet in the way landscapes become when nothing demands attention. The horse shifted its weight once, the movement subtle, barely disturbing the grasses around its legs. Its mane, long and coarse, rested without stirring. There was no fence here, no road, no distant farmhouse. Only land and the memory of land, held in the gentle undulation of fields that had grown used to seasons passing without spectacle. The horse breathed, and the meadow breathed with it, an unspoken rhythm shared between creature and earth. The horizon did not move, and the horse did not ask it to. The afternoon settled into itself without transition, the light neither climbing nor falling, but holding steady in a pale, even tone that washed across the meadow like a slow breath. The wild horse remained where it stood, not rooted, not waiting, simply present in the openness that stretched before it. Its sides rose and fell in a measured rhythm, slow and even, the kind of breathing that comes from long familiarity with distance and silence. The grasses around its legs shifted in the faintest murmur of air, so faint it was unclear whether it was truly wind or simply the memory of wind moving through them. The horse lowered its head slightly, not to graze. There was little fresh growth here, but in acknowledgement of the earth beneath, the scent of dry stems and sun-warmed soil rising gently. Somewhere far beyond the horizon, a ridge of hills traced itself in a blue haze, but they did not call, and the horse did not look toward them for direction. The land was wide enough that direction did not matter. The sky remained a broad, pale expanse, marked only by a few thin, almost transparent clouds that drifted without purpose, their motion so slow it could not be tracked by the eye. No hawks circled overhead. No insects buzzed at the horse's flanks. The world had chosen stillness today, not through absence, but through completeness. The horse shifted again, one hoof pressing lightly into the soil, leaving a clean, quiet impression. Its mane lifted once in what might have been a flicker of air, then settled back, unbothered. The meadow carried the faint scent of heat held in grasses, the dryness of earth that has seen many summers, the subtle traces of other animals that had passed here earlier in the season, deer who had grazed near the creek before it thinned, cattle that might have crossed long ago, another horse perhaps, whose tracks had since been erased by wind and time. These traces did not linger as reminders, only as gentle suggestions, folded into the land. The wild horse did not need to interpret them. It understood the meadow in the way all creatures born to open spaces understand them, not through thought, but through breath and stance, and the quiet certainty of belonging. A distant fence line, weathered and leaning, stood far to the south, barely visible against the grasses, not as a boundary, but as a memory of one. The horse did not approach it. There was no need. Its world did not require borders. The sun, slow and unhurried, traced a shallow arc across the sky, but the light did not deepen into evening yet. Time here was not something to be measured. It was something that simply continued. The horse lifted its head again, gaze moving across the meadow, though nothing had changed in its view. The horizon remained still. The earth remained open. The quiet remained full, and the horse, steady and calm, stood without asking for more. The day continued without direction, as though time itself had settled into the same steady stillness as the land, and the wild horse remained in the dry meadow, every line of its body at ease in the vastness. The grasses stretched outward in slow waves, some standing tall, some bent under the weight of age and weather, each blade holding its own shade of pale gold or soft tan, all blending into a field that looked less like something grown and more like something that had simply always been there. The horse's ears turned gently, not toward sound, but in quiet awareness, the kind that comes from living in open places where distance speaks more often than voices do. There was no call, no distant hoofbeat, no bird's cry, no whisper of brush disturbed by movement. The meadow did not require sound to feel full. The horse's coat held the warmth of the day in its fibers, and where the sun touched its back, the light brushed a soft sheen along the line of muscle beneath. Its hooves rested firmly, pressing lightly into the faint dust of the earth, where the ground had been shaped by seasons rather than steps. Far off to the east, a dry creek bed wound like a memory through the grasses, its banks shallow and crumbling, filled with stones smoothed by water that had not passed through for months. The horse did not look toward it, but it knew the creek was there in the way all creatures of the open know the shape of land by the air itself. The sky above remained pale and steady, a wide, endless expanse that neither pressed down nor lifted upward, but simply stretched, quiet, complete. No clouds thickened, no shadows elongated. The light hovered in a single sustained tone. A cluster of hardy shrubs grew low to the ground in the distance, their branches twisted and close-packed from years of wind that had sculpted them into their shape, though no wind blew now. The silence that lay across the meadow was not the absence of sound, but the presence of something deeper, a stillness that connected soil to sky, creature to land, breath to distance. The horse blinked once, slow, unhurried, and the grasses did not stir. The horizon remained where it had always been, straight, unwavering, quietly immense. There was no sense of journey here, no sense of before or after. The horse did not remember where it had come from, not because the memory was gone, but because memory was unnecessary. It did not imagine where it might go next, not because the future was unknown, but because the meadow did not require plans. Life here existed in a kind of steady present, wide enough to hold everything without asking for meaning. A single small fly drifted near the horse's flank, but there was no irritation in its presence, no flick of tail to discourage it. Even that tiny motion felt unnecessary in the softness of the hour. Somewhere far beyond the horizon, a line of mountains might have stood, but from here, they existed only as an idea of distance, something too far away to alter the quiet of the meadow. The horse stood, and the land stood with it, and neither asked the other for change. Evening began with a change that could not be seen so much as felt, a subtle thickening of the air, as though the light itself had taken a deeper breath and stretched across the sky, softening at the edges. The wild horse remained in the dry meadow, its body calm and balanced, not in readiness, not in rest, simply existing within the great quiet that lay across the land. The grasses around it had begun to take on a deeper tone, the sun's angle slowing into a warmer hue. Though the brightness did not flare or fade, it merely shifted into something gentler. The meadow seemed to widen in the late light, distance unfolding without changing, the horizon a long, steady line that did not bow or blur. The horse turned its head slightly, the movement small and unhurried, its mane settling again across its neck in loose strands, its eyes reflecting the land's openness rather than studying it. The air carried a faint scent of dryness, of warm soil, and the delicate, brittle sweetness of grass that had grown under long days of sun. No insects hummed. No birds traced the fading sky. The silence was not hollow. It was full, holding everything in place without tension. A distant ridge of low hills far beyond the meadow lay quiet and unmoving, their shapes softened by the deepening light, but not demanding attention. The horse's hooves pressed gently into the earth with each minimal shift of weight, impressions forming that were shallow and unimportant. marks that stated simply that something had stood here and had no need to move. The sky above unfolded into slow color, not brilliant, not dramatic, but gradual, pale gold sinking into a muted rose, then into a softer ash blue. The change was so slow it was nearly imperceptible, as though the sky did not intend to change at all, but found itself doing so simply because time continued. The meadow accepted the change in equal stillness. The grasses did not bend, the shrubs did not rustle. The land did not feel the need to acknowledge evening arriving. The horse lifted its head again, but only slightly, as though the movement was simply a continuation of breathing rather than an act of awareness. It did not wonder about nightfall. It did not anticipate coolness. It did not recall midday. It existed in a present so full, and even that time itself felt like another layer of air settling around the body. If a breeze had passed, it would have moved softly, touching only the tips of the grass. But no breeze came. The world held still. Somewhere far away, perhaps beyond the farthest edge of vision, another animal might have moved, but no sound traveled here, and the horse did not listen for any. The horizon did not change. It held its line, as if promising the land that nothing needed to shift. The horse breathed, slow and steady, its ribs rising and falling with the quiet certainty of something that belonged entirely to the place where it stood. The sun lowered, but without ceremony, without color flaring or shadows stretching. Darkness approached the way all things did here, without intention, and the horse remained, calm in the meadow, that neither asked for coming nor going. Evening simply became the day, just as the day had once become morning, and the horizon did not move. Night gathered itself without edges, without a single moment when day could be said to have ended. Instead, the light thinned in the sky until it was no longer light at all, but a soft, even dusk that rested across the meadow like a deep breath. The wild horse stood where it had always stood, its form becoming a gentle silhouette against the wide openness of the land. The grasses, once bright with the sun's pale warmth, now held the cool tones of evening, each blade outlined only by the faintest glimmer of the remaining glow. The horse's coat darkened into the quiet of the hour, but its presence did not fade. It simply became part of the dusk, woven into the meadow as naturally as the dry earth and the long horizon. The air cooled gradually without sharpness, settling around the horse's body in a way that did not ask it to move or seek shelter. The meadow did not change shape when touched by night. It merely deepened, as though its space became wider, its distance longer, its silence more complete. No wind passed through. No cry rose from the land. The world rested. The sky above deepened into something close to blue, yet not quite night, the color of distance that cannot be touched. A few stars appeared, first one, then another, then more. Though they did not glitter sharply, only rested in their places the way stones rest in a riverbed. The horse blinked once, the motion soft, unhurried. Its breath rose and disappeared without clouding, the air too dry and even for mist. Time here did not move forward. It broadened, stretched, lay still without freezing. The meadow held every moment of day and night together, layered so gently that nothing pushed against anything else. The dry earth beneath the horse's hooves cooled by degrees so slow that they did not register as change. The grasses leaned under their own weight, not from motion, but from rest. Far off, a ridge and the hint of distant brush and stone held the same quiet shape they had held under the light, as if the land itself did not need darkness or brightness to exist. It simply was, in full. The horse shifted its stance once, a small adjustment of balance, the subtle kind that keeps the body comfortable without breaking stillness. The sound of its movement did not carry. The night did not echo. Even silence did not feel empty. It felt full, heavy with the presence of land that had existed far longer than memory. The sky continued to darken slowly until the color overhead matched the quiet weight of the earth below, and the stars rested like faint embers, scattered without urgency. The horse felt neither alone nor observed. There was no audience in the meadow, no story unfolding, no passage of moments that required awareness. Existence here had no before or after. The horizon did not move. The meadow did not shift. The world held itself steady, and that steadiness was enough. The horse lowered its head slightly, exhaling a warm breath that touched the air and dissolved back into the stillness. It did not need to sleep yet. It did not need to walk. Its presence was not waiting for anything. The night enveloped the meadow with the same gentleness as the day had done. Nothing was taken away, nothing was given, and everything was whole. No sound rose, no motion disturbed the grasses. The stars remained quiet. The land remained open. The horse remained, simply and entirely, itself, and the horizon did not move.